Hello, my name is Brandon Wu, and I'm one of the nurse practitioners at WPI Student Health Services, SHS for short. Today, I will be showing you how to access the Student Health Portal and how to upload required health documentation in order for you to become compliant with state and WPI specific requirements. I will also be reviewing some other helpful information regarding health documentation requirements. Thank you for tuning in. I would like to start this video by just plugging the importance of starting this process as early as possible. The goal is to have students fully compliant with medical requirements by the start of their academic year to avoid the risk of a medical hold being placed on their account, as well as ensuring that students are adequately vaccinated to protect themselves and others from these vaccine-preventable illnesses. Being proactive also applies to scheduling your primary care or pediatric annual exam, as well as seeing any necessary medical specialists before you start school to ensure you start on a good foot. Now, I would like to highlight where graduate, undergraduate, and transfer students may find what their exact health requirements are. SHS staff have compiled a helpful packet of forms that should be fully completed and individually uploaded into the health portal as applicable. If you scroll down, you will find a clickable link titled New Student Health Forms and Immunization Requirements. On this page, you will still want to click on the drop-down that applies to you, be it an undergraduate, graduate, or transfer student. Click on the red hyperlink to find a downloadable copy of the packets. Here is the packet of requirements. The first page includes some helpful parameters regarding some of the requirements, along with the deadline date to submit all of your paperwork towards the top of the first page. Before we move on, we would like to highlight a few important pieces of information on the first page. We stress the importance of working on submitting your health requirements before the deadline, as non-compliant students or students that have not satisfied the health requirements are at risk of receiving a medical hold on their student account as previously stated. This hold does prevent students from accessing class registration for the coming term, as well as seeing their term grades for the current term. We also want to emphasize the availability of a text reminder system for your medical appointments at SHS. If you would like to opt into text reminders so you don't forget when you have a medical appointment, you can log into the health portal, and once logged in, under My Profile, you will see a checkbox that says, I would like to receive SMS text message reminders. We also highly recommend inputting your cell phone number into your WPI Workday profile. Workday automatically feeds your inputted cell phone number into Medicat, which is WPI Student Health Services electronic health record system. You can see here that the cell phone number is blank, and once you enter it into Workday, it should automatically feed into here. You can access Workday by typing in hub.wpi.edu into your internet browser. From there, once you log in, you can go to the Personal Information tab, and under Contact Information, you should be able to provide your chosen cell phone number. The second page is a list of the vaccine requirements set forth by the state of Massachusetts. Please pay specific attention to the dosing parameters as these are required. If there is a variation in students' immunization records and the spacing between the doses does not meet the Massachusetts requirements, students will need to readdress the vaccine requirement before it will be accepted. Certain states will allow patients to meet their vaccine requirements for elementary through high school with different dosing parameters when compared to Massachusetts. However, if there is a discrepancy between the doses, for example, your home state allows you to receive your second dose of a chickenpox vaccine 24 days or less apart, while Massachusetts requires the first and second dose to be 28 days apart, you will need to seek either another dose to meet these requirements, or you will need to have your medical provider, such as your PCP or pediatrician, fill out a medical exemption form on behalf of your student. Students that are 30 years of age or older by the time you start school do not need to meet these requirements per the state. The third page is a blank template of an immunization record. You may submit this once it is fully filled out and signed off by a healthcare provider. Alternatively, some medical offices will provide a comprehensive immunization record that is accessible for patients to print out on their side and upload to the WPI Student Health Portal as a result. As previously mentioned, whatever documentation is submitted must be signed off by a healthcare provider and should include their contact information. This healthcare provider can be a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, or a physician. Unfortunately, we are unable to accept this form if it is not signed by a healthcare provider, and or lacks the associated contact information for this healthcare provider. Another common pitfall we often see is that sometimes a student's immunization record will span multiple pages, and students upload these pages separately. This can create verification issues if a student's demographic information, namely their name and date of birth, are not included at the top of every page. SHS staff are unable to accept a document without those identifying factors. Therefore, if you are unable to upload a multi-page immunization record as one single file that has the student's name and date of birth at the first page, then you will need to write in the student's name and date of birth onto each subsequent page before uploading each separate page as a separate file onto the WPI Student Health Portal. The fourth page is our consent to treat form. All students must submit this form with both their signature and printed name towards the top of the page. If a student is under 18 years of age by the time that they move into school and start classes, they must have a guardian or parent sign off on this form as well. The parent or guardian may include emergency contact information at the bottom. The fifth page is the blank template of an acceptable physical exam form. You may also submit a copy of your physical exam provided to you via your doctor's office in place of this form. For example, this could include a copy printed out from your MyChart or similar patient portal. Of note, if you submit a copy of your physical exam that is provided to you by your doctor's office, please ensure that this form has everything that can be found on our blank template form, as this is universally helpful information. Please make sure that you have your medical provider, either a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, or a physician, sign off on this form and include their contact information at the bottom. Unfortunately, we are unable to certify this form if it is not signed by a healthcare provider and or lacks the associated contact information. The sixth page is the TB risk questionnaire. Students must answer questions 1 through 5. If you answer yes to any of these questions, you must proceed to the section below the solid black line in the middle of the page, where you will need to seek out additional TB testing. TB testing can be done via PPD, also known as a TB skin test or tuberculin skin test. TB skin tests can typically be done at your primary care office. If you are in the US, CVS MinuteClinics also provide this service. You will need to return to this provider or their location to have the TB skin test read and the rest of the form filled out. If your TB skin test is positive, you will need to either get a chest x-ray or a blood test that examines for latent or active TB infection. The name of this blood work is called an IGRA, which is short for interferon gamma release assay. If you choose to get an x-ray in place of the TB skin test, please make sure you ask your provider for a copy of the x-ray report to attach to this form when you upload it to the health portal. The x-ray report is needed regardless whether the chest x-ray is normal or abnormal. Depending on the results of the chest x-ray or the blood work, you may need treatment for TB. If indicated and you do receive treatment for TB, please note that you will also be required to provide medical documentation of this treatment. As always, with all of your medical documentation, please ensure that your name and date of birth is included, as well as the signature of the medical provider and their contact information at the bottom of this sheet. The 7th and 8th pages are an optional waiver form for students that do not desire to receive a meningococcal vaccine. Typically, this vaccine is given in 2 doses at ages 12 and 16. The state of Massachusetts only requires a single dose of this vaccine, however, and it must be administered on or after age 16. Please note that the meningococcal vaccine that is required by the state is different from the meningococcal B vaccine. Some common names of the correct meningococcal vaccine include MenACWY, Menveo, Menactra, and Menquadv. If the waiver is used to waive this requirement, please ensure that the student fully fills out the bottom of page 8 and submits it to the health portal. The 9th and final page is an optional exemption form. This form is to be used if a student desires to waive a requirement based on religious or medical grounds. Students filling out this form should mark off which vaccine requirements they are using this form to waive. If you are applying for a medical exemption, you must attach a medical letter from a medical provider, either a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant, or physician, detailing your medical condition that precludes you from receiving the vaccines that you are requesting to waive the requirement for. The medical provider should sign off on this documentation and provide their contact information as well. If you are applying for a religious exemption, you do not need to provide any additional documentation. Regardless of the reason for using this exemption form, students must fully fill out the bottom of this form and submit it to the health portal with appropriate documentation when applicable. Medical exemption documentation, such as the letter from your medical provider, should be separately uploaded into the health portal under Medical Provider Exemption Letter. Please note, all exemption forms, both religious and medical, need to be renewed on an annual basis before the start of every school year. This also includes medical paperwork for medical exemptions. Please also note, this form is not meant to be submitted if you already have all the other required documentation in place. A common pitfall we see is students submitting a completed exemption form saying they have received all required vaccines previously. This is not required, as this form is meant to allow someone to be non-compliant with a vaccine requirement. To access the Student Health Portal, you will need to type in the following URL into your search bar: wpi.medicatconnect.com. Medicat is our electronic health record system that we utilize to record, store, and access health documentation. You will be prompted to log in using the same credentials you would use when logging into Workday. The link to the Student Health Portal can also be found off of the WPI Student Health Services webpage. When you click on immunizations, you will see a list of the medical requirements in dark blue boxes. If you click on the small arrows to the far right of each box, a drop-down will appear and show you the specifics of the requirement. For example, if you click on hepatitis B, you will see that you are required to enter the dates of 3 hepatitis B vaccine doses based on your immunization records. Please note that the dates of vaccine dates are required to be entered by the student. SHS staff are unable to enter the dates for students based on the associated immunization records. If students do not enter the dates for all required vaccine doses, a student's health record will remain in a non-compliant status until the student enters said dates. The fourth option at the bottom is something called the titer. This is lab work done via blood to examine for serological immunity. Titers can be used in place of vaccine doses, as these will show someone is immune or not. Titers can be done for hepatitis B, varicella, measles, mumps, and rubella. Please note, for any vaccine titers, we require the titers to be quantitative, meaning that they have numerical values attached to them. A negative titer will not meet our health requirements, as it indicates a lack of immunity. Some labs that provide vaccine titers only provide qualitative titers, which tells a patient if they are immune or not, but does not provide any numerical values in turn. Unfortunately, we are unable to accept qualitative titers at this time, and if you submit these, we will ask you to seek updated lab results. Another common pitfall we see is accidentally forgetting to hit submit after entering the dates of your individual vaccines, as well as forgetting to hit upload when providing the necessary medical documentation to substantiate those entered vaccine doses. The system does require documentation when it detects a date has been entered and will not save unless documentation is provided subsequently. This is why we encourage students and families to enter as many vaccine dates as they can in one sitting, as to prevent the constant need to provide the associated supporting immunization records repeatedly. After you have entered the dates for your vaccine doses and hit the submit button, you can check on the status of your submissions by clicking on View Missing Immunizations in this light blue box. You may see the phrase "not verified" next to a vaccine dose that you have entered. Please note that this status does not mean that the SHS staff has rejected your vaccine dose, but rather the staff have not been able to fully review your health documentation yet. If you see the phrase "verified" next to the vaccine dose, this means that the SHS staff has been able to review your vaccine record and verified that vaccine dose. If the SHS staff finds any issues with your vaccine dose, such as the timing between the doses of a vaccine being too close together to meet state requirements, we will notify you via secure message through the health portal. In very rare circumstances, a dose of the vaccine may be verified by SHS staff, but additional information is required from the student before a requirement can be fully met. SHS staff will notify the students of this also via secure message on the health portal. When you click on the Uploads tab, you will find a list of the available categories that you can upload supporting documentation under. For example, if you scroll down to Physical Exam and select File, you will be able to attach a document. Once you have selected the file to attach, please hit the blue Upload button, which should appear at the bottom right around this cursor. The page will refresh, and under the Documents Already on File section below, seen here, you will now see your newly uploaded physical exam file. Please note the following tips. Please make sure to write your name and date of birth on all supporting documentation, unless it is already clearly written and contained within one file or PDF. This includes all pages of your physical exam if it is multiple pages. Second, if you have scanned all of your required supporting documentation, such as your PE, your TB risk questionnaire, and your vaccine record into one larger comprehensive PDF file, you will need to re-upload this file several times under each required category. For example, you would re-upload the same file multiple times under physical exam, immunization files, and TB risk questionnaire. Third, if you have a piece of supporting medical documentation, such as your physical exam that is then split into several scans or files, for example, page 1 of your physical exam is its own file, and page 2 is a second file, please simply upload all associated files under the correct category and you will see multiple physical exam file uploads. Please note, if you are a WPI varsity athlete that is required to submit medical documentation to participate in your sport, WPI Athletics and Health Services are separate departments and have separate requirements. These departments also do not share medical documentation between each other, so submission of sports-related medical paperwork to athletics will not meet SHS medical requirements on the health portal and vice versa. Questions regarding specific requirements for athletic participation should be directed to WPI Athletics. This concludes our health portal and health requirements walkthrough. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to WPI Student Health Services via email, which is shs@wpi.edu, or the main office number, which is 508-831-5520. Take care and thank you for watching.